The desert stretched endlessly, an ocean of orange sand shimmering under the merciless glare of the sun. Each grain sparkled as though imbued with its own light, creating a surreal, otherworldly shimmer. Waves of sand undulated gently in the wind's breath, giving the illusion of motion across the static expanse. The heat radiated visibly, bending the air into quivering mirages that danced just beyond reach, teasing the eye with phantom shapes. Zephyr walked alone. His purple robes trailed lightly behind him, brushing against the sand as if reluctant to let go. His shadow stretched long under the high sun, a stark silhouette against the glittering expanse. The profound silence of the desert was broken only by the faint crunch of sand beneath his boots and the occasional gust of wind. Above him, the sky was an uninterrupted expanse of pale blue, offering no reprieve from the blazing heat. And through it all, I remained, Zephyr murmured, his voice low and steady, tinged with quiet determination. His golden eyes scanned the horizon, where dunes rose and fell like frozen waves in an infinite sea. The faint breeze stirred, sending a small spiral of sand into the air before it dissipated. Zephyr watched it vanish, his expression resolute. You are not defined by those who left, he said, his voice firm and introspective, as though he spoke to both himself and the vast desert around him, nor from the past, by those who walked away. His pace slowed briefly. He looked down at the shifting sand beneath his feet, its movement a reminder of the fleeting nature of everything. You are defined by the choices now, he said, his voice sharpening with resolve. His steps resumed, each one deliberate as he pressed onward across the glittering dunes. No, Zephyr continued, his voice rising slightly above the hum of the desert. This is an opportunity to learn. Define yourself. When you give and do not receive, it's a sign. The rolling dunes stretched on, a cascade of liquid amber shifting as the wind carried whispers of change. A ridge came into view, its edge sharp and defiant against the flowing sands. Zephyr adjusted his posture, his gaze unwavering. That you will become stronger than you've ever been. That the vacuum that's left doesn't define you. A lone black and white pillar rose from the sand, its geometric patterns etched sharply against the vibrant hues of the landscape. The pillar stood like a sentinel, stark and spectral in its isolation. As Zephyr approached, his gaze lingered on it momentarily. No, he said quietly, his voice steady. It's a time of possibility, for if someone cannot see your value. The wind howled briefly, its mournful song carrying across the desert as though it mourned lost moments and broken connections. Zephyr's voice hardened. Someone who pretends they are yours, that can close the loop on you in a snap. His steps quickened, his boots kicking up small plumes of sand with each stride. Then let them walk, he said. Let them search. Zephyr exhaled deeply, the sound audible in the profound stillness. His golden eyes narrowed, and a fire of determination burned behind them. It is not over, he said. Now the future is unknown. Let it be like that. He lifted his gaze to the blazing sun, its light harsh and unyielding as it illuminated his features. His voice grew softer, almost reverent. God, grant me serenity to accept, for strength, courage, and wisdom. As he passed the lone pillar, its faint geometric pattern shimmered briefly before fading back into stillness. Zephyr glanced back but did not stop. You are not defined by those who lied to you, he said. You are not defined by those who manipulated your generosity with abuse. His steps slowed momentarily, his shoulders relaxing as his voice softened. You hurt. We all do. Peace, peace, peace. The wind picked up again, swirling sand around him as if the desert itself was trying to listen. Zephyr straightened his posture, his expression hardening once more. You will not break me. You do not decide my value. His voice resonated with unyielding resolve. Stay on the path. Continue the walk. The shifting sand beneath his talons made each step uneven, but he did not falter. That is all you can do. If someone can destroy you, let them. Zephyr paused briefly, reaching into his robes. From within, he retrieved an ivory cigar. With a flick of his talons, he conjured a small flame, igniting it. The smoke curled lazily around his face before dissipating into the dry air. You are not defined by your past, he said, his voice calm but firm. No, you are not. He exhaled a plume of smoke, his gaze steady on the horizon. You are defined by the now. Ahead, the sand began to give way to a smooth white platform, its surface cool and polished, a stark contrast to the blistering heat of the desert. Zephyr stepped onto it, The abrupt change underfoot startling. The wind stilled as though the desert itself held its breath. At the platform's edge, a single perception flower bloomed. Its petals were delicate, and in its center blinked a single eye, its gaze steady and unyielding. A faint scent of ozone filled the air, carrying an almost electric charge. Now is all there is, Zephyr said, his voice steady and introspective. Now I can believe in possibility, because I believe in me. He moved forward, ascending a distorted rock formation that rose from the platform. The surface was layered with deep black and white vectors, their surreal, almost digital patterns shifting faintly as he climbed. From the summit, Zephyr gazed out over the endless desert. The sun blazed down, its light catching on a massive block at the base of the rock. The block's surface pulsed faintly, a swirling portal of energy shimmering within its core. Around it, the alchemical symbol of water glowed faintly, its steady light unwavering despite the oppressive heat. The portal's energy called to Zephyr, a promise of passage and transformation. He stood tall at the summit, the wind brushing against his robes as he surveyed the scene. The desert stretched infinitely in all directions, but here, in this moment, he felt centered and resolute. Acceptance of what is, Zephyr said, his voice quiet but firm, and knowing that I am still here. I trust me. I remain. I endure. The wind carried his words across the sands as he descended toward the glowing block. His steps were unhurried. As he approached the swirling portal, his resolve solidified. The desert, the path, and the unknown future stretched before him, but in this moment, Zephyr chose to move forward. He stepped into the light, his figure dissolving into the shimmering energy as the desert hummed softly in his wake.